Yeah, I mean, collectivism is an ideology that basically it doesn't recognize the individual, and it views all of the parts as non-entities that are part of a whole. So it views the whole as an entity. And what it seeks to do is it seeks to average out all of the constituents into some homogeneous kind of collective, like a homogeneous blob. In doing so, when people are kind of averaged out and not admired, not rewarded, not recognized for their own individual excellence or greatness or abilities or values or needs or desires, people end up kind of lowering their standards, because the person next to you, if they're getting treated or if they're getting the same reward or if they're getting the same benefit as you and they're doing less than you, you inevitably ask yourself the question, why am I working so hard? Why am I doing this when the person next to me is getting the same thing? So you lower your standard a little bit. And then the next person sees you do that, they do the same thing. And then you wonder why, that person's doing less, so then you lower, and it becomes to this, it transforms into this, what I like to call a tyranny of the lowest common denominator. We just keep spiraling downwards. And we start to look at things like excellence and greatness as what's the word? As vices instead of virtues, and they're the most important virtues of all. Like if we're not reaching, if we're not striving for excellence or greatness, then we're literally doing the opposite. There's no middle ground, and this is what I think people don't realize, is that in life you're either growing or you're dying. There's no stable middle ground. Like the idea of balance is fucking horseshit. You're growing or you're dying. You're reaching or you're falling, and that's the cycle of life. Yes, and just more so than individualism, it's greatness of the individual person, right? It's not about the average man or the and like ultra individuality can also kind of go off the deep end as well, and you kind of see it today. It's like, I'm so individual, I'm so different that I'm, 6 genders and blah blah blah, right? Like, so you try and like super ultra individuate yourself, and that just starts to get ridiculous, because there are conservative norms and structures that make sense. There is commonality, and there are natural organic collectives that form. But what's interesting about organic collectives that form is they're kind of people come in and go from them, right? So like an interesting collective is a football team, right? Or an interesting collective is like a group of people who surf, and then another group of people who are who they like to watch movies, another group of people who do BJJ, another group of people who do Bitcoin, and one person can actually be a part of all 4 collectives, and none of those collectives define him. He is defined by all of them. Like he actually creates his definition. So it's kind of an inversion of that. But we also, as I said, kind of like freedom is bound by responsibility. If we don't keep some sort of constraint or restraint on that makes sense, we can kind of go off the deep end on individuality. So directionally, it's correct, but we need to be responsible in the way we approach it. Well, I think there's a lot of thinking around Bitcoin as freedom, but with freedom comes responsibility. I mean, it's that great saying, almost reminds me of the Spider-Man one: with great power comes great responsibility. And honestly, power reminds me of freedom in some sense. Like there's a similarity between those two concepts. But to kind of bring it back to responsibility is that you could, as I said in the talk earlier, is like you could be free to walk up and slap someone in the face, but there are consequences in doing that, and the consequences are a deterrent. But even more than that, there is the moral duty, which is the responsibility not to do that, and that is something that human beings have tried to develop over thousands of years, or hundreds of thousands of years, however long we've been here, is we've tried to develop a kind of a moral code of how to behave that still that respects other people's private property, that respects other people's selves. And to me, that's kind of what responsibility is. And when I think about Bitcoin, it's like the ultimate responsibility money. It's, go and send it to a Ethereum address and see what happens. It's gone. There's no Bitcoin support hotline to call and say, hey, I lost my Bitcoin, can you come and help me? This one's a tricky one. So when we get into social responsibility, it's hard because no one's responsible for anyone else, but they have a duty or a responsibility to speak what's truthful. So let's think about it this way from first principles. If you're an early hodler and you're still holding your Bitcoin on Coinbase, you're a fucking moron. So what you should be doing as an early hodler is you should be doing self-custody. You should be, running a node. You should be doing all those things because that is the right thing for you to do. And then when you describe when you recommend what other people should do, it should be what you're doing. You shouldn't do that and then recommend people use Coinbase, right? Yeah. So it kind of stems back to a truth. So it's not your responsibility to, tell everyone what they should be doing, but a responsible person tells the truth and a responsible person does the right thing. So that's kind of the pathway.